The Kui is a musical heritage. It is a unique, creative work and a story with a profound meaning.
Abyl Kui. Abyl Tarakuli.
Legends in music.
The morning spring coolness quickly changed to a hot day, and by noon the sun became so strong, putting the valley into a serene sleep. On the luscious green slopes, the herd of horses grazed lazily. Sluggishly and slowly, the white-gray, piebald horses tore off the young stems of grass with their soft lips, carefully chewing and waving their tails to wave away the annoying flies. Despite the half-darkness, the eyes of the shepherd Bai Shi remained sharp, and nothing could be hidden from his attentive look. One horse stepped on an uneven stone and stumbled. The other, the most frisky and disobedient one, left hiding in the thick bushes of the honeysuckle, and the third one limped on the gadfly bite. He laid on the spreading mat and looked through his half-closed eyelids behind the herd. The soft, beautiful features of his face were emphasized by the thick black hair, with barely perceptible grayness. It was easy to see the extraordinary and perceptive mind in his eyes. The Bai Shi looked at the ranges of silver-blue mountains, on the gentle slopes of the emerald green hills, and all of a sudden, he remembered yesterday. His mind recalled the conversation with the shepherds, who, like him, grazed their sheep on this slope. Sitting not far from them, Bai Shi was a happenstance witness to their conversation. Bai Shi laughed at how stupid and boastful people could be. He shook his head and dived into his memories. The two shepherds spread out mutton skins on the grass, led their simple conversation about livestock, prices in the markets, and about what this summer would be like. One shepherd was a middle-aged man. His name was Jibek, and the second was much older, named Kajim. "This year the summer will be especially hot," said Jibek. "Besides, look at the steppe. It's turning green earlier. This always means that the summer will be dry." "Oi, Bai, yes, it is," sighed the old Kazim. "Look, someone is coming to us." Both shepherds turned their heads and saw the young Jigit approaching them. "May God bless you," the Jigit said as he bowed his head in greeting. "Let your cattle always bring an offering." "Oh, thank you. Sit down here and have a rest. Tell me, where are you going? It seems as if you're not from here," Jibek said. "Yes, that's right. I am a traveler. I've walked and changed several pairs of boots. I go to the valley of Sirdarya, to the holy places. Now I'm going to the bazaar. I want to buy a camel. I wanted to ask you, what should I do? When it gets dark, should I make a fire and stay overnight in the open air? Or should I go back to the village and ask for a night's lodging? Are your places quiet?" "Oh, dear Jigit," Jibek exclaimed. "How can you think things like that about our places? Everything is quiet and peaceful here. However," and he thought for a couple of moments before immediately continuing, "it wasn't always like that. Only a couple of years ago, no, not a couple. In fact, not very long ago at all." The shepherd began his story. "A squad of armed robbers were raging our region. And all of a sudden, in the middle of the night, they came into our auls. They came into our yurts and stood on the steppe to the travelers. They took everything away from our people. The cattle have been stolen. Everybody shuddered with fear. but no one could do anything. And so it went on and on until I took off my armor from the yurt's wall. The Jigit leaned forward and began to listen to the story carefully. The old shepherd Kazim widely opened his mouth, hearing such a lie, and he stared at his friend. He winked insensibly and continued. "I have known a weapon since my very youth," the shepherd boasted. "So I put on my chainmail, armed myself with a saber, and fit a battle axe to my belt. I put on my helmet, and I took out the strongest horse, and I drove myself into the steppe. I lit a fire at night, and I waited." Then the shepherd paused and looked at his listeners with a pointed look. All froze and waited for the continuation of the story. But I did not have to wait for long. I heard the patter of hooves. 10 horsemen surrounded me. I pretended to be asleep when they approached me, jumped off my horse, and rushed at them. I tilted the shield and knocked the peak out of the hands of one and threw a hatchet into the chest of the other. And then in the third, I hit him with my saber. One of them rushed at me, but the saber of the enemy broke in half, stumbling upon my shield. I lifted my hands, and my bullet saber flashed into the light of the moon. I shouted my battle cry. These cowardly jackals decided that I ambushed them, and so they rushed in different directions, turning around their horses. Since then, peace has come, and quietness in these places." The Jigit narrowed his eyes and listened to the lying speech, and certainly did not believe a single word of this shepherd. He looked at Jitis and saw that he was not like a glorious warrior at all. He had neither strong hands that could keep a shield or a sword, nor a single scar from the wounds inflicted in battle. And would a real Batir actually boast of his victories as him? Jitis looked at the boy's incredulous expression and fervently said, "It is true. I have proof. Look." And he put out his hand under the collar of his shirt and took out the gold-plated coin hanging on a thin leather strap. "This coin was handed to me by the most respectable Aksakal of our village for my boldness and valor." The Jigit looked at the coin and immediately saw that it was not made of gold at all, but from the alloy of copper and tin. And then he said, "As not all coins are gold, not all speech is true." The Jigit smiled and politely said goodbye, and having risen, he set out again on the road. The Baishi smiled, remembering this conversation, and he thought, "Our land is still rich with fools and boasters who should amuse people for holidays. They do not confer the merits of brave soldiers and the courageous warriors who shed their blood in this valley. Baishi took his dumbra in his hands and struck the strings. And he played Abyl Kui. A passionate melody flew across the steppe, in which the clank of weapons and the clatter of battle, and the battle cries of the valiant Kazakh Batirs were heard. Abyl Kui. Oil is making its noises, sizzling in the cauldron. And the delicious smell of milk and roast dough spread throughout the house. Coals slowly smoldered, warming the yurt, and the wind not so scarily howled and prickled, striving to come through any gaps. The careless childhood is fleeting. Here are the first uncertain shaky steps, and the strong father's hands, raising high under the very sun. The large neck of a horse, which is difficult to grab and to hold in the saddle. The first wind in its face, and the look in the steppe, immense, boundless, which takes your breath away. To see the sunrise when the night mist dissipates and sinks into the ground with dew, when all the smells of flowers and plants fill the air with a special aroma. Everything is full of life, fresh, bright, and fun. Now the young man is sitting in the saddle and watching the flocks of sheep and goats drowned in the grass. Their dissonant bleating is heard from afar. The horse herds grazed calmly and peacefully. Having spread their mane and tail, they voice through the steppe with a neigh, stallions rushing around in the herds, not allowing anyone to approach them. Families live in the summer nomadic camps until food is poor, and then they move to another place. And people put white felted yurts up for holidays and toys. And they call the akuns and kuishis. They take their instruments in their hands and play and sing and laugh with a loud laugh all over the village. And now the young Jigit pulls the bow with force. There comes the excitement of the first hunt. Heady and dizzying when the arrow buzzes and ruthlessly pierces its goal. Today, the quick and graceful Saiga will not run away from him. Finally, the first winter comes. The snow covers the ground and falls down in flakes, and is all speckled with hare, fox, and wolf tracks. Some winter blizzards and storms freely walk on the smooth plains, turning the sky, air, and earth into a boiling white snowball. And now the girls look tenderly at the heart. Her delicate, elegant image will stand before him during sleepless nights. Suddenly, at the end of the horizon, from one side to the other, some black moving points appeared. These are the Jigits, fast and dashing and merry. They rush on their fast horses, outrunning each other in the Baiga. But sometimes they come out. A squad of horsemen appear, as if from under the ground, tightly aching, their feet too strong, beaver-like pacing of horses. They are warriors, lazily, carelessly traveling along their vast native steppe. And the Jigit thinks that it will always be like that. But suddenly, one day, the steppe breaks out, and the Jigit grows up instantly. He puts on his father's chainmail and a helmet crumpled in battles. The Jigit will look into the eyes of the enemy for the first time and see the flaming houses there, the weeping girls and women, the suffering and pain of his people. And he will feel the incredible power when his blood becomes hotter than a hot iron. His movements become fast and swift. The steppe glows with the purple-red tongues of flames and black smoke, covering the steppe with its suffocating veil. The opponents stand opposite each other. They know that many of them will stay here on the ground, under the weeping howling of the wind. The archers will draw their bowstrings, and the cruel arrows will sing, screaming, tearing through the air, and fall upon the Batirs with a bloody rain. And the Jigit will see how the horses fall under their hooves, and his faithful friends will be killed by the enemy. The sabers cut right into the left, the scarlet blood flowing down the edges. And under these blows, Jigits become strong and fearless warriors. They become valiant Batirs, desperately defending their native lands, their mothers and their wives. Later, people will say legends about them, and Kuishis will play their soulful kuis. Without blinking, they look at the fixed mountain ranges and the merciless bloody battles. Only a bluish mountain sage and the spotted John's wort bend their stems and cuddle themselves against the fallen soldiers, hoping to heal their deadly wounds. The steppe hardens its unbearable expectation and begins curdling without a noise. No crack, no alarming screams of birds can be heard in the dense grass. The Batirs are fighting desperately, and the enemy trembles under their rush. The enemies turn around their sweaty, bloodied horses and run far away, where the horizon converges. A drop of blood will drop from the lips of the Batir to the mottled veil of the steppe grasses, and he hears a quiet song, which the wind is sending him. This was when, through the vast steppes we rushed, with our strong horses, taking battle axes from under the saddle. The unique musical creation of Abyl Tarakuli. Abylai Tarakuli began showing great interest in music from his early childhood. He went to distant villages when he was young, and he got acquainted with Akuns and Kuishis, listening to their stories, shirs, kuis, and songs. He learned a lot from the Sal Siri, trying to imitate them. Abylai became an outstanding author of unique work, with an inimitable steppe coloring.